This is toboggan belaying or lowering. So we'll start out with just maybe like a 10,000 foot view of just the overall concept of what it really is. But before we get into the toboggan that we're going to use, this is another toboggan. It's newer toboggan, and the reason why I want to show this is because we have these holes right there. We can zoom in. That is for lifting or for hoisting. So one there, one there. So that's basically for taking this toboggan, putting it this way, and then doing a vertical hoist. We don't do that here with toboggans. What we do is we either belay or lower depending on who's doing what at any given point in time. We aren't hoisting anything or pulling anything up. We're going down a slope, and it's going to be a steep slope. That's why it needs to have some sort of a line as a backup, or it could be a working line and the patroller or responder is in the front horns doing the lowering or controlling that, or through tight spaces, cruxes, through cliff bands, but not in the cliff, but they're just, this stays on snow. We'll start with just how to connect a rope system into the toboggan. So right now this is the rear of the toboggan. Do the rear horns need to be in? Yes or no? Dealer's choice, rescuer's choice. Maybe, maybe not. It's not super critical. Do we need a rescuer in the back horns while we're kind of going down with a line back here? I'd say it's better not to have a rescuer in the back horns. But we always want to have a rescuer in the front horns because that rescuer is either controlling the lower while the line itself is belaying as a backup, or instantaneously the line can be what's lowering and the patroller is the backup in case something happens due to human error or rigging error. So we need a way to connect it. We make a bridle, or like a 2-point bridle for this toboggan. And so if we pan the camera down, all the way down underneath the toboggan, right in here. So we have these eyelets. So these things are not rated for like any vertical application, but in this scenario we can get away with that because most of the force is actually on the ground and it's just a drag. Carabiners are ideal to clip in there. I could easily just route webbing or a rope in there, but that means that we have to actually untie things, and it takes a little more time, especially when it's cold, when we're out of that kind of hazard zone and we're ready to continue on. So as a default, I'll just clip 2 carabiners down here and call it good. The most intuitive way to kind of do this is to make our bridle with webbing. So we have a lot of this webbing. A lot of people just tie this in a sling and then equalize it. What I'm going to do is just route this through the carabiners. And then just like a 2-point anchor, I'm just going to equalize all this together. And by bringing the bight in, and this is basically what this is called, is a frost knot. So I tie 1 knot to make the bridle whole. So right there, I take all these strands. If you can keep them dressed, that's a bonus. And this is just a big overhand knot. That's all this is. And then we connect our rope system into here. And this is probably one of the most intuitive, easiest ways to do this. So carabiner here, and then I connect the rope system. So a couple of different knots will work okay. Any appropriate midline knot. I'm not taking the terminal end and tying a knot and then hooking in. I'm gonna maybe give myself some tail. And kind of an easy one or an intuitive one to do is probably your basic alpine butterfly. Bow lines work, directional figure 8s will also work here. So I take an alpine butterfly, I clip in, and we're good to go. The reason why we have a long tail here is for an additional attachment to our patient, if we need one. This debate on whether we need a harness for our patient. Well, if we truly need a harness, maybe we're in terrain where we shouldn't be lowering this on a steep slope. Maybe it's more high angle and we need a different device altogether. But again, that's just the judgment call on the rescuer. If you have a rescuer in the horns in the front, that kind of provides a block for the patient sliding out. But this does help if you need to connect to, like, let's say a backboard or like the handle of a vacuum, like a full body vacuum mattress for a patient who's got more significant injuries. You can do that, and it just offers a little bit more security, again, where you can say, just beyond a doubt, they are actually hooked into our system. So again, that's just optional. It's rescuer's choice. So this is kind of like your basic go-to is kind of what you should do. The webbing, with the rope. Again, if you look at how many pieces of gear we have, yeah, it's a lot, but it kind of makes sense. It's easier to kind of grasp, especially when you're learning this. Can you connect in with just the rope? And the answer is yes, you can. If you have this down and you want to do more with less gear, we can just get rid of the webbing bridle altogether. But now I can connect in directly with the rope. When would I want to do this? If I know for a fact that I don't need 2 ropes, or like the distance is less than like 200 feet. If these ropes are 200 feet long, and I am only going 50 feet, I don't need 2 ropes, especially if I'm not going to change fall line paths. Okay, so I need a larger bite for this, and let's actually get a longer tail as well. Okay. With the loops I can connect in. What I don't like is the long tail that I created, which is this. If I use that as a secondary attachment point and we look at, let's say that this fails and then we load the knot. If you look here, this thing is capsizing and pulling itself apart, so it's called loading and expansion, and I don't like that. It's to say that like it's gonna fail is a stretch, but it's just bad form. So I typically don't like to do the rabbit ears figure 8 for this. So instead, we're just gonna do a bowline version of it. Okay, here we go. So same deal as before, long tail. I'm gonna weave my tail through both of them just like the bridle of a webbing, and I get a really long tail. And here, I'm gonna pull this in to equalize, but I'm gonna start as if I was tying a regular bowline, then I'm gonna pull that equalizing strand in. And then now with this, I can just continue on as if it's a regular bowline, but it has this really long tail that I have to route and weave in. And now I have this long tail that can be loaded in a favorable way. So now if something happens and I lose points on the carabiners or the grommets that blow out, if they blow out, and this tail gets loaded, everything is loaded in line. Better option, but again, these are additions to the baseline. The baseline should be just create a webbing sling and then go from there. Okay, so if I'm the rescuer and I'm in the front horns and I'm going down this direction and my anchor is up there, and we're operating a lowering system or belay, depending on mode of operation, let's assume that either I run out of rope and don't have enough rope to continue, in which case I need another rope and a device to change over, or my fall line changes and I need to create another anchor that's gonna change my direction for me. And so as I go out, and I'm gonna use this big tree right here as my as a change, as an anchor change. This is gonna be for a change of fall line direction. So as I go out and I turn and I start to go this way, so lower down, I've initiated my directional change. Of course, I wouldn't want to leave the front horns. Somebody is always going to be in the front horns, but we need somebody else to come down and rig an anchor. So we need another rope bag. And if you look at the size of this tree, it's a single point anchor. The kits we carry have pre-manufactured anchor slings here. These aren't going to fit around a big tree like this, so they do have their limitations. So I'm going to have to use webbing. And when I do a single point anchor with webbing, I want to construct it in such a way where the direction of pull will find its own path, so it's going to self-equalize. Basically means I don't tie a shelf. The wrap 3 pull 2s are classic. I'm just going to do a wrap 1 pull 1 since it's not critical. We aren't dealing with really large forces, right? So wrap 1 pull 1. Start with my skeleton, my water knot. So zoom in. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pin this water knot right against the tree, and that's my frame of reference. And the rest of my webbing goes around. see a lot of people, they want to use the entire length of this webbing. What they end up doing is creating an anchor that's way out in front. I don't want to do that. And a good way to tie this in a water knot without like taking scissors and cutting your webbing to make it to the girth of the tree. Again, we have our water knot pinned up against the tree for reference. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this around and fold this into a bite, and then I'm going to complete my water knot with the bite. This is called a frost variation of a water knot. It allows us to operate our device directly off the anchor, and we don't lose any precious real estate elsewhere. So a frost variation of a water knot. It's basically a water knot tied with a bite. Okay, since it's a wrap one, pull one, I'm just gonna rotate this so that the knot is on the back side. And now I have a load distributing, self-equalizing single point anchor. Okay, so the most basic intuitive way to do this is to, again, another rope, another device, and as the toboggan passes us, I can just clip in. So zoom in. Where do I clip in? It really doesn't matter. I can clip in here just fine. I see people wanting to clip in to the shelves, thinking that, oh, if one strand breaks, the other strand, like, it's redundant, but this is unnecessary because we have a master point. So I just continue to use the master point, and I don't have to clip into the shelf. You don't need to do that. And then we just route this into our device, and then we just transfer the tension. This takes a lot more manpower and it's a coordinated effort, but on the upside, it seems like it's more intuitive and people can grasp this. So that I take all the slack out, they continue to lower out until this goes slack, and then we disconnect from the original line, and now we're full on the new line. That's what you do if you ran out of rope and you needed to do an anchor change for another 200 feet of rope. If all you need is just a change of direction, this will work too. Again, this is intuitive. You should kind of revert to this as a baseline. Another way to do this without having to go for a whole nother rope bag is just repurpose the same kit that you had up there. We have carabiners and pulleys in there, and we really only use pulleys when we're hauling because friction is our friend when lowering and it's our enemy when we haul. So here all we really need is a carabiner, and as the toboggan passes by this anchor, this change of direction anchor, this is an alternate way to do it, and you're done. If you know that you have enough length of rope, the main operator up there can continue to lower, and this is just a basic single point change of direction to carry on. So it's an option. Another option is if this toboggan does not pass directly by this anchor, but it's further out, you can always extend this out with like a sling, or an anchor sling, or a piece of webbing, and then do the same thing. It's just extend it out. All viable, reasonable options for toboggan lowering and or belaying, depending on who's doing what. But again, as a baseline, you should probably use the webbing as a bridle to connect in. And if you're going to do some sort of anchor change, whether that's due to running out of rope or just a simple ball line change, revert to just another rope with another descent control device, ID, and an operator. And then after that, you can build upon that and kind of look at the terrain, get your skill set dialed, and then maybe figure out how to streamline it. So maybe using just the rope as a connecting point without the webbing, and then just using a simple change in direction with just one operator the entire time. So steep angle, toboggan, lowering, belaying. Cool.